Hello and welcome, everybody. And thank you always for joining us in another live broadcast. Your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed here on Truth Frequency Radio. And I apologize, I'm a little bit stopped up. I do have a little cold this evening. And so I invited both Lisa and Clark to join me. And we're going to be talking about the creation of soul, pre-existence, predestination, election, and those things as revealed in a few of the passages in scriptures, which we're going to share with you in discussion this evening. Lisa, are you there, sister?
Yes, and can you hear me okay?
Yes, and I appreciate you doing the show with Gary yesterday. I listened to it. It was another awesome broadcast. You have a very comfortable presence on the radio, and so that's a really good thing. Uh,
I think I was a little more comfortable yesterday than the first time, but thank you so much. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and it was exciting for me as well as I admire your work, of course, but I've been admiring Gary's for some years here too. So it's an honor for me to be there, and thanks for inviting me on today. I'm excited to have Clark join us as well, and we just want to make sure that you can preserve your voice and whatever we can do to help, we're here.
yeah, I appreciate that very much. So, Clark, are you there, brother? Clark, check.
Clark, I think we have a little issue with your volume. Maybe you could double check. It looks like you're not muted.
I just had a chat with him before coming on.
Okay.
We'll listen out for you, brother, but check your audio settings and make sure everything is good. But in the meantime, I am excited for. Gary said that his book will be released sometime this upcoming month, so I know a lot of people are very excited and looking forward to getting the book and reading it. His material is extensive, and so I can only imagine what he's going to be adding to his all this other previous research.
Oh, yeah. When you consider that he said his first book took him 30 years to write, and
Right.
and he still had extra information. I think he said something like, I don't remember, an extra 100 or maybe 200 pages that the editor told him to cut out so the book wouldn't be so long. So I'm excited to see what he's going to be sharing in the second book as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of research, and he does a lot of very in-depth and extensive research. And even since we've been doing the AMAs, the Ask Me Anythings, he has already done 54 here as well. And so
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
was
an
shocked
awesome
to see
thing.
that. Oh yeah, I was so shocked to see that. I mean, just the quality of the questions, I really give a lot of credit to the viewers and to those sending in the questions because in the shows that I've watched for the last several years and then, hosting in the last couple times here, the questions are just amazing that people are coming up with, and
Right.
it's going to be an ongoing, endless stream of questions as we get further into the last days here.
Yeah, our listeners are very well researched, and especially when he comes on, he's got a whole group of people that follow his work as well. And so there's a lot of really in depth and well thought out questions, and you can tell that the people are very familiar with his work and as far as these esoteric topics.
Oh, yes, for sure. It's nice to be able to watch the chat at the same time as being there to ask him the questions because so many good points are brought up in the chat. I think you're enjoying that too yesterday, right, Zen?
Yes,
Yeah. So today's show, I appreciate you asking me to join you here. I'm hoping Clark can get his microphone up. It was exciting to have a talk with him, and I think that this might kind of stem from a discussion that we were having during Digital Readers Club a couple weeks ago, where we started talking about the souls when we were reading through the
Yeah.
Legend of Jews.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that forth before we went, too far away from it because we are covering and speaking about these issues in the Digital Readers Club, and so I did want to bring it forth and cover it in greater depth on the show, and so we will share a couple of those passages, one from the Legends of the Jews about the creation of the soul, and the Chronicles of Jeremiel about the formation of a child. And both of those are confirming witness for one another, and they do have a little bit uh, difference, as far as perspective on the issue of the creation of soul and how all that came about. But it does cover and talks about and reveals how we were all known by the Most High before even the foundations of the world were established, how we were numbered amongst the sons of God, that we were with the angels in heaven, how everything was created, all the spirits of all the, uh, as far as all the elements, all of humanity, all of the angels, all the creatures, everything was made on the first day. And so um, I'll, I'll, I'll actually read that and then I'll get you to read the other two because I'm not sure if you actually have this passage brought up, but
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Zen.
yeah, from the book of Jubilees. This is chapter 2, but it is after it is a reminiscent on the creation. So it says this. And the angel of the presence spake to Moshe according to the word of the Lord, saying, write the complete history of the creation, how in 6 days the Lord God finished all his works, and all that he created, and kept Sabbath on the seventh day, and hallowed it for all ages, and appointed it as a sign for all his works. For on the first day he created the heavens which are above, and the earth and the waters, and all the spirits which serve before him, the angels of the presence, and the angels of sanctification, and the angels of the spirits of fire, and the angels of the spirit of the winds, and the angels of the spirit of the clouds, and of darkness, and of snow, and of the angels of the spirit of the clouds. Oh, I said that, sorry. Hail, and of hoarfrost, and the angels of the voices, and the thunder, and of the lightning, and the angels of the spirits of cold, and of heat, and of winter, and of spring, and of autumn, and of summer, and all the spirits of his creatures which are in the heavens. And on the earth he created the abysses and the darkness, eventide and night, and the light, dawn and day, which he hath prepared in the knowledge of his heart. And thereupon we saw his works, and praised him, and lauded before him on account of all his works. For seven great works did he create on the first day. All right, so again, this is from the book of Jubilees. It's the angels are reminiscing on the creation, the establishment, the seven first days, and the Sabbath rest, and the initial creation week. And so we see, according to this account, how all the angels, all the spirits of everything of everything that is alive, because we're all connected to the Most High in that way, and we have this immortal aspect, the bright nature, the angelic, the glorified self, and it is that portion of us which was with the Most High before and will be after, uh, God willing, of course. But and so we'll go into the accounts, but I want to give you a chance to comment, and then we'll see if Clark is with us as well.
Okay, yeah, the first time when I read that whole account in Jubilees several years ago, it made so much more sense when you read the book of Genesis and chapter 1 and the whole account of creation, especially focusing on the first day when he says, "Let there be light." And then we don't get anything else really in the book of Genesis. And you wonder,
Right,
so what does that mean even, because he is light, he's the light of the world.
right,
But
right,
that makes a lot more sense when you read the extra biblicals, like the book of Jubilees, which, just to add, this was a book that was found in its entirety in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So in my opinion, that gives it some pretty good credibility. And as you know, Zen, we always look at a number of different witnesses to the same information. And
right.
even Legends of the Jews, it expands this a little bit more. But just to know that the angels they're part of the light too. They're made from, I think that there's one, maybe it's an Arabic writing that says they're made from like smokeless fire. Maybe I think that's also in Legends of the Jews.
Uh-huh.
But so they're a part of that light. And then to have that whole description in Jubilees with each job description of the angels that were specifically created to help the earth function, and the whole biblical cosmology system function properly with all these different compartments and angel over each compartment. I'm blown away by that every time I hear this whole passage. And I use this passage too when we're teaching the book of Enoch, just to describe a little bit more, because we get angelic appearances throughout the Bible, but not to this degree of detail. So I really like that about this particular passage in Jubilees.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the two that I made mention, which we'll go into, and I'll get you to read, and then we can share discussion and comment about those, are the ones on the creation of soul and the legends of the Jews, the soul of man. Do you have that one pulled up?
Yes, is that the one that is under the ideal man, is what I'm looking at too, about when God was about to put a soul into Adam's body? And
Yes,
then
yes,
that's this the part. Okay. Yeah, so this
yeah,
is from the book The Legends of the Jews, for all of you listening. This set is, I think it's either the second or the third grouping of books that we ordered from sacredwordpublishing.com, just because when we kept hearing Zen share information from this set of volumes by Louis Ginsburg, it just it expands your knowledge of what's going on in the Bible so much more, that we just thought we have to have this set of books. So if you'd like to get an amazing set of books, and then you can also use it to read along with us in Digital Readers Club every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Someone in the chat was asking how to join reading with Digital Readers Club. So I put a little bit of information in there. And thank you, Tammy George, as usual, who's moderating for us, for putting all the other information that they need, some links of how to get into Discord. Because for me, anyway, I'm really not a technical person. It took me a couple months before I actually felt comfortable enough to even read through Discord. So I know it's a little bit tricky at first, but it's well worth it. Just the community, the discussion, the chance to hear everybody else's thoughts on what we're reading together, and to be able to read in one accord the extra biblicals with Zen. I mean, that's just to hear all of his wisdom on these topics that he's studied for so long. So I'm going to go ahead and read this is from book 1 of the Legends of the Jews, and it's under what's called the Ideal Man. I have the hard copy of this, the hardback, and it's on page 69 in here if anyone wants to read along. All right, so it starts out, when God was about to put a soul into Adam's clod-like body, he said, "At which point shall I breathe the soul into him? Into the mouth? Nay, for he will use it to speak ill of his fellow man. Into the eyes? With them he will wink lustfully. Into the ears they will hearken to slander and blasphemy. I will breathe her into his nostrils as they discern the unclean and reject it and take it in the fragrant. So the pious will shun sin and will cleave to the words of the Torah. The perfections of Adam's soul showed themselves as soon as he received her, indeed, while he was still without life. In the hour that intervened between breathing a soul into the first man and his becoming alive, God revealed the whole history of mankind to him. He showed him each generation and its leaders, each generation and its prophets, each generation and its teachers, each generation and its scholars, each generation and its statesmen, each generation and its judges, each generation and its pious members, each generation and its average commonplace members, and each generation and its impious members. The tale of their years, the number of their days, the reckoning of their hours, and the measure of their steps, all were made known unto him. Of his own free will, Adam relinquished 70 of his allotted years. His appointed span was to be 1,000 years, one of the Lord's days, but he saw that only a single minute of life was apportioned to the great soul of David, and he made a gift of 70 years to her, reducing his own years to 930. And so that's kind of the end of that one section. I thought maybe, Zen, if it's okay, there's another section coming up under Adam and Eve in Paradise that talks a little bit more about the souls. Would you like me to read that paragraph?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so I'm going to skip forward here. This is page 77 in the same book. The Garden of Eden was the abode of the first man and woman, and the souls of all men must pass through it after death before they reach their final destination. For the souls of the departed must go through 7 portals before they arrive in the heaven Arabot. There the souls of the pious are transformed into angels, and there they remain forever, praising God and feasting their sight upon the glory of the Shekinah. The first portal is in the cave of Machpelah in the vicinity of Paradise, which is under the care and supervision of Adam. If the soul that presents herself at the portal is worthy, he calls out, "Make room, thou art welcome." The soul then proceeds until she arrives at the gate of Paradise, guarded by the cherubim and the flaming sword. If she is not found worthy, she is consumed by the sword, otherwise she received a pass bill, which admits her to the terrestrial paradise. Therein is a pillar of smoke and light extending from paradise to the gate of heaven, and it depends upon the character of the soul, whether she can climb upward on it and reach heaven. The third porter, Zabul, is at the entrance of heaven. If the soul is worthy, the guard opens the portal and admits her to the heavenly temple. Michael presents her to God and conducts her to the 7th portal, Arabot, within which the souls of the pious, changed to angels, praise the Lord, and feed on the glory of the Shekinah.
All right. Thank you for reading that and sharing. There's one thing I want to bring forth, and then we'll go into discussion. And this is also part of the Legends of the Jews, but it goes into that portion about, where Jeremiah, the word of the Lord went to Jeremiah, told him he had known him before he ever entered into the womb of his mother. And so just wanted to elaborate on the pre-existence of humanity and how we had spiritual lives before we incarnated into flesh form. This is the soul of man. It says, the care which God exercised in fashioning every detail of the body of man is as naught in comparison with his solicitude for the human soul. The soul of man was created on the first day, for it is the Spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters. Thus, instead of being the last, man is really the first work of creation. So, again, very important to understand this, that even though Adam, and it specifies Adam and Eve that even though they were placed into the dust body on the sixth day, their spirit had already been created and was established on the first day, as all of our spirits were. All right, continuing. This spirit, or to call it by its usual name, the soul of man, possesses five different powers. By means of one of them, she escapes from the body every night, rises up to heaven, and fetches new life that's for man. So that's, covering how uh, our dreaming body, that portion of us which is not connected to the physical but uses the physical and then goes on to dreaming every night. That is the immortal aspect of who we are. And so we are, we use the vehicle, the body, for the journey of lifetime. But who we are existed before the body. Just a little bit more, then I'll get you to comment. With the soul of Adam, the souls of all the generations of men were created. They are stored up in a promptuary in the seventh of the heavens, where they are drawn as they are needed for human body after human body. The soul and body of man are united in this way. When a woman has conceived, the angel of the night, Layla, carries the sperm before God, and God decrees what manner of human being shall become of it, whether it shall be male or female, strong or weak, rich or poor, beautiful or ugly, long or short, fat or thin, and what all its other qualities shall be. Piety and wickedness alone are left to the determination of man himself. Then God makes a sign to the angel appointed over the souls, saying, bring me the soul of so and so, which is hidden in paradise, whose name is so and so, and whose form is so and so. The angel brings the designated soul, and she bows down when she appears in the presence of God and prostrates herself before him. At that moment, God issues the command, enter this sperm. The soul opens her mouth and pleads, O Lord of the world, I am well pleased with the world in which I have been living since the day on which thou didst call me into being. Why dost thou now desire to have me enter this impure sperm? I, who am holy and pure and a part of thy glory. God consoles her. The world which I shall cause thee to enter is better than the world in which thou hast lived hitherto. And when I created thee, it was only for this purpose. The soul is then forced to enter the sperm against her will, and the angel carries her back to the womb of the mother. Two angels are detailed to watch that she shall not leave it, nor drop out of it, and a light is set above her, whereby the soul can see from one end of the world to the other. Just a little bit more. In the morning, an angel carries her to paradise and shows her the righteous who sit there in their glory with crowns upon their heads. The angel then says to the soul, dost thou know who these are? She replies in the negative, and the angel goes on, these whom thou beholdest here were formed like unto thee in the womb of their mother. When they came into the world, they observed God's Torah and his commandments. Therefore they became the partakers of this bliss which thou seest them enjoy. Know also that will thou wilt one day depart from the world below, and if thou wilt observe God's Torah, then wilt thou be found worthy of sitting with these pious ones. But if not, thou wilt be doomed to the other place. One last portion here about the other side. In the evening, the angel takes the soul to hell and there points out the sinners, whom the angels of destruction are smiting with fiery scourges. The sinners all the while crying out, Woe, woe, but no mercy is shown unto them. The angel then questions the soul as before, Dost thou know who these are? And as before, the reply is negative. The angel continues, These who are consumed with fire were created like unto thee. When they were put into the world, they did not observe God's Torah and his commandments. Therefore have they come to this disgrace which thou seest. We're at first break. We'll be right back, everyone.
There's magic in good communications. There's magic in the human touch of words. It was said the pen is mightier than the sword. That's true. Words are powerful. Words are almost godlike. I'm an amateur on some of these studies, but an ancient verse said,
I love motherhood more than I
Your
could
partnership
ever
with Sacred
imagine.
Word
One of
Publishing
the most
goes
important
further
things
than the
to me is
publishing of
nurturing a
ancient
strong
manuscripts
foundation
and
in
truly
Yahushua's
content.
It's our goal to make ancient manuscripts, which were once held captive by secretive institutions, available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased, as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
I love motherhood more than I could have ever imagined. One of the most important things to me is nurturing a strong foundation in Yahushua's character in our children. That said, I made sheets that went over the fruits of the Spirit, the armor of God, the 10 Commandments, and creation days. Each day at breakfast, we would go over these and then read books like Cat in the Hat that just felt so void in meaning, but they loved the rhymes. I looked everywhere for rhyming biblical principles and couldn't find any. That's when I decided I would make them myself. Praise God, we now have our first book, Eliana and Ezra's Journey Through the Fruits of the Spirit, a first in a series. Every morning we now can continue to build strong principles even through rhymes, and I wanted to offer it to the babies in your life too. Please go to Sacred Word Publishing and search Fruits of the Spirit to get your copy, or you can go to prophecyforchildren.com. Thank you so much.
everybody. I'm going to read one last paragraph. It's just a few sentences, and then I'll turn it over to Lisa. We'll get a comment, and hopefully Clark will be joining us as well. Um, Between morning and evening, the angel carries the soul around and shows her where she will live and where she will die and the place where she will be buried. And he takes her through the whole world and points out the just and the sinners in all things. In the evening, he replaces her in the womb of the mother, and there she remains for 9 months. All right, there's a little bit more, but when we go into on the formation of the child, we'll be able to touch upon, because it does parallel this study as well. Lisa? Lisa, you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I'm here.
You're good.
Yeah. Okay, great. I was just saying that I like to refer, and I know you do this too, Zen, to refer back to scripture to see if there's anything in the Bible that even remotely describes what you just read, because that just blows me away. I've never
Yeah.
read that anywhere else until I read it in the Legends of the Jews and some of the other texts that we're going to be looking at here. But until then, there's a couple verses that kind of allude to some of this, like in Jeremiah 1, verse 5.
Uh,
It talks about, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. So, there are some things alluding in the Bible that describe what you just read, but it blows me away that there's all this information out there, and we're led to just believe that, our conception was just kind of like this big bang, and and then that was it. And then 9 months later, nothing happens spiritually or anything going on with the baby. This is what we're taught until
right.
birth, and that's the huge event, of course. But to me, the large event would start with just what you just read about how the soul is chosen, and how the Most High is right there and invoking the sperm, and the journey that the angels take the soul on to show one end of the earth from the other. There's the two angels that are detailed to watch that, to make sure that it's safe. There's a light set above this particular soul, and shown even what the two different destinies could be for the soul, depending on the
Right.
choices.
Yes.
And shown paradise, and shown, the other side, the abyss. And so it's like, even before conception, we're shown all of this. And I know you discussed this too, that we pray to bring to remembrance, as much as possible, so that we can know who we truly are.
Yes. All very important factors. And I think, one of the most important things to realize too is that we have the free will choice to decide on which angel. It speaks about these two angels that are with us. And in the story of the shepherd of Ermas in Mandate 6, we see that we have the angel of righteousness and the angel of unrighteousness, and what we see in the cartoons with the devil on
Right.
the left shoulder, the angel on the right, and they're both trying to whisper into our ears and get us to act in a certain accord, and to
Yes.
feed a certain aspect of ourselves. But yeah, go ahead.
No, that's exact imagery that was coming into my mind as you were saying, talking about the two angels, with the one telling you do this, you're the evil one, and then the good one saying, no, no, it's a better way. And we're shown this like in cartoon form from
Right.
being young children, but we're not taught that it's an actually real thing that's happening spiritually.
Right. And that is the war. Truly, now that is the war in heaven. Now there had once been the rebellion of Lucifer and the angels that joined him, the 1/3 of the angels of the Most High, which joined him in this rebellion and wanted kingdoms to rule for themselves. that when we enter into this world and we incarnate into these flesh bodies, those choices lie before us. And every day we wake up to a new dream and new opportunity. And uh, those are the options that we have, again, to follow good or evil, that we are learning through the duality of this world and the our entrance into this paradigm in the matrix of uh, pain and pleasure, the good and evil, light and darkness. These are the things that are going to teach us, and each one of us, as we enter into this world and enter into flesh form, we learn over time. Um, and there is going to be at some point where, God willing, that we have the memory and we are all reunited, joined again with our loved ones, and hopefully we'll be able to look back on these times and bring them up in recollection and remember the lesson of why it is that this world was allowed to happen and occur and exist in the manner that it did. Because I think that we are learning the reason why we need a just and loving and compassionate and uh, as far as the Most High, and based on a rule that is based on love, and even a faith and a way of being that is based on love and blessing others. That uh, if we don't have that, if we have the chaos of everybody competing against one another and fighting against one another to try to get ahead, and we see that competitive nature and that selfishness that even Lucifer wanting and being unwilling to serve, that he's making all these promises to all those that do follow him and that are being deceived and led astray. That the power, the kingdoms of the earth, the money, the control, the fame, all those things are allowing people to move away from what we are commanded within the scriptures and the law, the Torah, to treat each other in kindness and with love, and to be foot washers unto each other. That a lot of the world does not embrace those principles, and it's
Right.
unfortunate because I think the world could be a better place. But go ahead.
No, yeah, I totally agree. It's so enticing, the things that are out in the world now, and it's so easy for especially the younger generation that's being raised with all of this technology that we didn't have, when we were their age, and it's so much more enticing, and to get pulled into it 24/7, have an iPhone or have a device at your fingertips that will keep you entertained, that will that you can shop from. I mean, you can basically do everything from all of the tech that's come into the world. And so I agree, totally agree with what you say, Zen. And also it's, it's even described that the path to wickedness is the wide path, right? There's going to be many that will go in that way, but the narrow path is the righteous path, where those will be blessed who follow that narrow path. I wanted to kind of address, there was a question in the chat a little bit ago, when you were reading this part about how when you said they came into the world, they observed God's Torah and his commandments. Therefore, they became the partakers of this bliss which thou seest them enjoy. The question in the chat a bit ago, I was thinking about it as you were talking. I'm not sure if I have a very good answer for this. They're asking if the angels were also required to follow the Torah and the commandments. And in my opinion, anyway, it's like as above, so below, in that spiritual way, where they have the spiritual temple up in heaven where the angels are serving the Most High at the altar. And it's possible for them to sin as well, or sin in the spirit, as we saw happen with the multiple angelic rebellions, right? I kind of wanted to get
Right.
your thoughts on that, Zen.
Yeah, I do agree that the angels are also given free will, and we see the results of that. That Lucifer being in supposedly the most awesome, most beautiful angel created being, um, that he vanity and iniquity was found within him. Pride led him to want to be something more than even the awesomeness that he was made and brought into being. That in that regard, that he wanted more. He wanted to be like the Most High. He wanted to be in control. He wanted to give the orders, to rule over and to dictate everything. And because of that, we see that he and a third of the angels of the Most High, those that rebelled against them, they were cast down and cast down. And so, yes, clearly they have free will, and they had free will, and even now they are dedicated and committed to evil. And we see in the story of Enoch, how they asked him to uh, speak on their behalf and to petition the Most High to forgive them and to not bring this what severe sentence of annihilation upon them for what they had done. Um, but again, they committed great atrocities uh, in leading humanity astray and creating war and all the different things that it was said and regarded, and bringing down the mysteries of the heaven and teaching humanity, uh, even teaching them to offer children as blood sacrifice, and the giants were cannibals and they did blood rituals and all the kind of the abomination that they're involved in even now, that
Oh,
they do everything to offend the Most High, and that's why
yeah.
judgment is brought upon them.
Oh,
But go ahead.
definitely. No, sorry, Zen. I'm just
Oh
agreeing
no,
with.
no, you're good.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you too, and I'm rereading some of the Clementine homilies as I'm getting ready to teach on this Saturday,
Oh yeah.
and where it talks about the cannibalism and especially homily 8, where it goes into such great detail. I love this text. Sorry to go on this tangent a little bit, but when you mentioned that the cannibalism and all of the things that the fallen angels taught to mankind and the giants carried out, and at first the giants they they didn't. I mean, I believe that they always had that tendency for cannibalism, just knowing the account of what happened with Cain and Abel, but the they ended up like literally farming humans for their blood, and they realized that the value of consuming human blood and human flesh as opposed to animal blood and flesh because of this whole issue with the soul is kind of what I believe. Is that similar to what your thoughts are, Zen, or you have anything else to add to that as to why the giants would be so drawn to consuming humans?
Yeah, I think that the giants, because they are the progeny of the devil, that they are brought up in everything that the Most High truly hates. And because they are taught and accept these abominable ways, that's why they are the enemy of God, just like Sataniel, the adversary of El, or the Most High. Yeah, I think that's why the elites also, that there's going to be judgment brought upon them. And if they, like Adam and Eve, when they fell, if they would have just repented, the Most High would have forgave them. But instead, they blamed each other and uh, did not take responsibility for their actions, their behaviors. And with regard to, the giants, and I think that Satan and the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness, they embrace everything that is the opposite of life. Like even the word evil is spelled backwards, those things that live.
Mm,
So the opposite of life is what evil and darkness. They do everything that offends God. They embrace everything that is not holy. Is what is considered abomination to him. You know, and so because of that, uh, that's why he hates them, and he literally does, and it's cited in his word. That he hates evil, and he hates. Like I just watched the Sound of Freedom uh, a couple of nights ago. I watched it again. I had watched portion of it before, but I watched the fullness of it, and the fact that these kind of things are happening to kids. If you guys are not familiar with the movie I'm talking about, it's based upon um, an individual that was part of Homeland Security and had investigated and was over uh, trying to free children out of the sex trafficking slave trade, which is becoming rampant in the world today. And even those kind of things are pushed by this organized evil, this faction of New World Order, the Illuminists that support these kind of behaviors. That I mean, I don't understand what is the attraction with young kids, why they would even involve themselves in this kind of thing. You've got to know you're evil to harm kids like this, but they do this even to their own. So, uh, yeah, they cross those lines.
yes, for sure. It is so sickening, and more truth about what is happening behind the world of the elite, the celebrities. All of that is coming out, and I believe that it's being revealed to us for a purpose, even through their own media, just because, right,
Right.
their rules is they have to let the rest of us know what they're doing, but they let us know within their own capacity because they want to be the ones to tell us. They don't want us to find out, and they want to be able to dictate their narrative. So they do release truth, but it's kind of mixed a bit because like, I mean, I'm not sure what your thoughts on are. The whole Epstein list thing is being released. I've been reading a bunch of that on social media, and to me it's kind of like, I mean, I'm glad that some of the truth is coming out, but in my opinion, that whole thing was for part of their own agenda, and instead of just us focusing on who's on this list, just know that it's all of the celebrities. It's not just these people that are on this list to focus on, it's everyone. It's even those that are revealing the list. I mean, it's just, to me, I think it's kind of more of like a distraction to get everyone to just see who's on the list and who's evil so they can follow the good, so-called good celebrities, or the good kings and rulers of the earth or whatever, who are not on the list. But to me, that list is, it's subjective. Like it would, I don't even think that there's a list necessary, because it's anyone who has a famous name that's involved with this whole cult of the Cainites that was originally begun by their ancestor, by Cain, and the whole serpent seed elite bloodline that they've struggled to keep so pure. They keep the genealogies just immaculate to make sure that each marriage includes like a large percent of serpent seed bloodline, so they can continue to indoctrinate their children that they're the higher powers and that we're just like the mundane, like useless eaters that they can prey on. and that they keep such good track of each child that's born in hospitals. That's why they test the child's blood like immediately so they could see what their levels are, which is why I so much applaud Joy and Justin and others who are out there that are not electing to have their children in the hospital, so they won't be subjected to that and to all the other things that come along with that. But just they really have everything set up to meet their own needs, and their needs include cannibalism. And like in the book too that you referred me to read about the area that I live in, the lost continent of Mu, it says straight out there that those people were so evil that the Most High destroyed that entire continent, and there's only these little islands in the Pacific left of it because they were like cannibals to the core. So, and descendants of Cain, I mean, it admits everything in that book. It was just, that really blew me away when I was reading that when we were on our cruise and we're sailing like right over the land that used to be the lost continent of Mu, and I'm thinking of all these evil abominations that went on here. And just to see, like, even in the islands of French Polynesia, when we toured over there, they have their own former, I guess you could say, sacrificial areas. They call it the holy areas set apart, but you can see their altars. You can see all kinds of stuff set up similar to what we have here in Hawaii. The heiaus is what they're called, the holy sites where the ancient Hawaiians, and I still believe that it's happening today, possibly in different areas or maybe underground underneath these heiau areas, but where the sacrifice was rampant before and very open about it. And then today we know it's still going on. It's just they're a lot more secretive and only certain people are allowed to participate, and you have to be certain bloodlines, and it's just they're slowly letting us know more and more, and how it's lining up directly with what things were like in the days of Noah.
Yeah, there was a lot of evil in that time, and we see that we are approaching a time where we see a repeat of all of that, which is, why the Most High has to bring judgment upon the world, because otherwise things would just get out of control. So that he warned us there should be no flesh left unless the days be shortened. And certainly the powers that be, the line of Cain, the children of the devil, they are now, openly. Whereas it used to be covert rule and like Oz, work from the shadows. Now it's all in your face. They're not trying to hide themselves. They do the secret hand signs. They do the Masonic handshakes and do the Illuminati eyes and all of that, where they're showing, making all these symbols and taking all these pictures, and they're showing. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Take your time, Zen. Get something to drink there. Need your
I'll
voice.
be right back.
Yeah, I'll continue. But yes, to go on what Zen was saying with the celebrities, I'm not sure if you in the chat or anyone listening to this have seen what's going on in even the concerts that are happening. The concerts that happened in the last several years, that there was events that were planned, mind control type events, and then they show us so much of their rituals during the concert. And in my opinion, I would not let my children attend those types of concerts, just because you don't know what they're placing in the minds of the teenagers or the young adults that attend these things. And it's just one entire big satanic ritual that the audience is forced to become a part of.
Yeah, I just heard even Dave Chappelle. Sorry, he was talking about last night about this some show, this award show that came on BET, and he's speaking about this one individual that it was a full-on satanic ritual right there on the show, on the award show, which is not surprising. I think they do this a lot now, Even the openings for uh, the Olympics, the halftime Super Bowl shows, all of those are ritualistic and a lot of times satanic or Illuminati rituals being hidden in plain sight. Even with when they opened that tunnel between what was it, uh, the
Uh,
UK and France.
oh, so was it
And
CERN?
yeah, they did all the pagan rituals, or they were speaking about showing Lucifer the light bearer and how they celebrate him as a hero for giving them the chance to have this free will to rebel against the Most High. It's just all twisted and upside down and backwards, but that's exactly what is revealed in the scriptures, and so it's nice to have a group to be able to come to and to speak about these things and to share these things and to expose them and to work against them, to not have any affiliation with evil and to shine the light on the darkness, so to speak. But
Yes.
we've got just a minute before break, so I'll get you the chance to final comment, and then we'll be back on the other side.
Okay, yeah. There was just one
Censorship and
comment.
regulation is becoming an
Oh,
ever-growing
actually, we're
problem in
there.
today's modern
We'll be
media.
right back.
From the mainstream to
See you guys in a
YouTube and
bit.
Google, the information you're looking for is buried by official narratives.
I love motherhood.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com.
I love motherhood more than I could have ever imagined. One of the most important things to me is nurturing a strong foundation in Yahusha's character in our children. That said, I made sheets that went over the fruits of the Spirit, the armor of God, the 10 Commandments, and creation days. Each day at breakfast, we would go over these and then read books like Cat in the Hat that just felt so void in meaning, but they loved the rhymes. I looked everywhere for rhyming biblical principles and couldn't find any. That's when I decided I would make them myself. Praise God, we now have our first book, Eliana and Ezra's Journey Through the Fruits of the Spirit, a first in a series. Every morning we now can continue to build strong principles even through rhymes, and I wanted to offer it to the babies in your life too. Please go to Sacred Word Publishing and search Fruits of the Spirit to get your copy, or you can go to prophecyforchildren.com. Thank you so much.
go into the formation of the child and to show people the other side, of the scripture. And this will elaborate more on what we were talking about, and then we can comment further. But did Clark was he able to ever join us? Or
No, I haven't seen him been able to talk. I still see that it looks like he's still trying to use Skype, but I haven't heard him able to talk or from him. So continue to pray that he's able to join us sometime, because he had some great points when we were talking about this in Digital Readers Club. I would love to
yeah,
hear
it's got good information.
Yeah. So you're describing the formation of the child in the Chronicles of Jeremiah. Is that
Yeah,
something
yeah.
you would just like me to read that?
Yes,
Or
if you would.
okay, I will read this. And this is a book that's available again at sacredwordpublishing.com, The Chronicles of Jeremiah, and I'll be reading this part titled The Formation of the Child. I will now proceed to explain the formation of the fetus which God created when man approaches his wife. God indicates it to the angel appointed over conception, whose name is Lila. God says, "Know that this night a woman will conceive. Take this sperm, place it in thy hand, and break it on the threshing floor into 365 particles." He does so. He then takes the sperm in his hand, brings it to God, and says, "O Lord of the world, I have done as thou hast commanded me, and now decree what is to become of it." God then decrees that it will be either strong or weak, male or female, rich or poor, beautiful or ugly, long or short, wicked or righteous. God then makes a sign to the angel appointed over spirits and says, "Bring me a certain spirit which is hidden in the Garden of Eden, whose name is so-and-so, and whose form is so-and-so." This applies to all the spirits which are destined to be created. For from the very moment when the world was created, all these spirits were prepared for men. As it is said, "What has already been has been called by name." The angel brings the said spirit, which, when it comes before God, bows down and prostrates itself before him. At that moment, God says to the spirit, "Enter thou this sperm." The spirit then opens its mouth and says, "O Lord of the universe, I am satisfied with the world in which I have lived from the day on which thou didst create me. If it please thee, do not suffer me to enter this impure being, for I am holy and pure." God replies, "The world which I will cause thee to enter is better than the world in which thou hast lived. And when I created thee only for this purpose." God then causes it to enter this new being against its will. The angel then returns and causes it to enter the womb of its mother. Two angels are prepared to watch the embryo during pregnancy. A light shines upon the head of the child, by which it sees from one end of the world to the other. In the morning, the angel takes it, carries it into the Garden of Eden, and shows it the righteous men who sit there in glory with crowns on their heads. The angel then says to the soul, "My child, dost thou know who these are?" "No," it replies. The angel then says, "These people whom thou seest here were formed like thee in the womb of their mother. They went forth into the world and observed God's statutes. Therefore they became worthy of this bliss. Know also that thou wilt at the end of thy days depart from the world, and if thou wilt be thought worthy to hearken unto the law and the commandments, then thou wilt be likely worthy of sitting with these in the place where I showed thee." In the evening he carries it into Gehinnom and shows it the sinners, whom the wicked angels beat with fiery staves. They cry, "Woe, woe," but no mercy is shown them. The angel then says to the soul, "Dost thou know, my child, whose these are that burn?" "No," it replies. The angel answers, "These were of the same mean origin as thou art. They went forth to the world and did not observe the commandments and judgments of God. Therefore they have come to this place of punishment. Know also, child, that thou must ultimately quit this world." The angel walks about with it from morning until evening and shows it every place which it is destined to tread, and the place where it will be buried. After this he shows it the world of the good and the world of the wicked, And in the evening, he places it back again in the womb of its mother. God then encloses it within folded doors, as it is said, and he shut in the sea with doors until it burst forth from the womb and became free. It is further said, I will lay my words in thy mouth, and I will protect thee in the shadow of my hand. God then said, Thou far shalt thou go, and no further. And he sustains the child in the womb of its mother for 9 months. And Zen, did you want me to keep reading, or did you want to talk about
Yes,
this one
please.
first? All right.
Yeah, no, let's finish it and then we'll.
Okay.
Thank you.
End of that, oh, sorry. At the end of that time, the same angel comes and says to it, Come forth, for the time has come for thee to go forth into the world. It replies, Have I not already told God that I am satisfied to remain in the place where I was accustomed to dwell? And he replied, The place I will cause thee to enter is better than that world from which thou hast come. Now that it pleases me to remain here, why dost thou wish to remove me hence? The angel replies, Thou must know that thou wast formed in the womb of thy mother against thy will, and now know that against thy will thou wilt be born and will come forth into the world. He then immediately strikes it, extinguishes the light, and brings it forth against its will. It then forgets whatever it had seen. As soon as it comes forth unto the world, it cries. And why does it cry? Because of the world it has left behind. For at that moment, 7 new worlds are awaiting it. In the first world, it is like unto a king after whose welfare all people ask, all desire to see it and embrace it and kiss it, because it is in the first year. In the second world, it is like unto a swine, which wallows in mire. A child does the same until it reaches 2 years. In the third world, it is like unto a kid that skips and gambols about on the meadows. Thus, a child skips about here and there until it is 5 years of age. In the fourth world, it is like unto a horse which strides along haughtily. In the same way does a child walk along proud of his youth until it is 18 years old. In the fifth world, he is like unto an ass upon whose shoulders burdens are placed. In the same manner, burdens are heaped upon man's shoulders. He is given a wife by whom he begets children. He must wander to and fro in order to obtain food for them until he is about 40 years old. In the sixth stage, he's like unto a dog, insolent and wandering about in all places for food, stealing and robbing in one place and enjoying it in another. In the seventh stage, he's like unto an ape, whose appearance is changed in every respect. All the household curse him and desire his death. Even the young children make fun of him, and even the smallest bird wakes him from his sleep. Did you want me to continue, Zen?
Um, I think we've gone far enough. So,
Okay.
all right. Um, just to show the parallels again with because the Bible tells us that out of the mouths of toothy witnesses shall the truth be established. And of course, we even though we do not get as great detail on these accounts in the scriptures, we do have like Ephesians chapter 1 on the predestination of some of the elect, and the first the chapter in Jeremiah where the word of the Lord goes to Jeremiah, tells him that he knew him before he entered into the womb of his mother. These passages are showing that um, this familiarity, it applies to all of us, that we were all known by the Most High before coming into and incarnating into flesh form and entering into this fallen state and this fallen world. And it's important to realize these things because when you have this understanding, when you know that we were here even before the world was reckoned, before the world was established, it helps you to understand things like, the the scriptures that tell us these things, that God knew us before we were found in flesh form. the whole theme of the fall of humanity and the banishment from paradise and being placed into this world where we are at the influence of the devils and the demons, that they were cast out, that they were banished here, that they were placed under the authority of death even before we were, and that the whole reason that we find ourselves in flesh now is because of the beguilement, the rebellion of the angels, and the the revenge that uh, Satan took against Adam because he was unable to exact any kind of revenge against Christ. And so, understanding these themes, which are again mostly hidden from the generalized, as far as the canon and the material that has been approved for people to study and to become familiar with. These are themes that are not clear and removed, I believe, in large part from a lot of different manuscripts. We do see, things like the Gospel of Thomas and others go into this in greater detail, but a lot of that material, again, was removed. Um, and so it leaves it ambiguous and difficult for us to fully understand. Lisa?
Yeah, this brings to mind, I don't know if have you ever seen a movie? It came out several years ago called Alita, Alita. It was produced by Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Wait a second. Maybe it wasn't about that. Was it like a robot or something?
Yeah, it reminds me kind of this because the entire movie, it's a robot, a very lifelike looking robot, and this is like a very futuristic, supposedly type of film, using a lot of CGI and but also real characters as well. But this particular robot, the entire movie, well, maybe about three-fourths of the movie, she was trying to figure out where she came from. Only bits and pieces were found of her, and so the scientist was putting her back together and used a different type of body that he had already built. It was very futuristic, but she's trying to remember, and she keeps having like these little tiny blurbs of
Uh,
flashbacks to who she was in her, before she was taken apart, and how old she actually was, and that she was this warrior, in a previous life. And she can kind of see this from certain skills that she doesn't realize that she has, and all of a sudden she just is like able to do like big time martial arts, and like she's this tiny little thing, and she can just defeat all of these other huge robots that are coming against her. Does that sound kind of familiar?
yeah. I'm not. I remember the movie. It was a long time ago,
Yeah.
but now that you've mentioned it, I'll definitely check it out with this whole theme in mind. But
Yeah. It
but
it
yeah,
just
there's a. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. It just reminded me of what we were discussing, that whole trying to bring to remembrance, and how, like you said, like through dreams. That was a lot of the times when she was remembering things through her dreams, and just a lot of parallels. I think it would be cool that the viewers could check it out too. It's a it is a kind of a violent movie, but I think it's rated like PG, maybe PG-13. It doesn't have a lot of other junk in it, except there's some violent fight scenes. But to me, it shows a lot of truth in plain sight of course, as they usually do through Hollywood movies that they call science fiction, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and there's always the exclusion as far as God, the Most High, and then there's always the theme of the superheroes and the gods of pagan cultures and civilizations, feathered serpent, that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah. But I love this reading though. It really is another witness to what we read from Legends of the Jews, and this is, to me, this one's even a little more specific, but it has
Right.
very similar information and about pre-existence, and how the Most High knew us before we were born, and the things that the soul goes through, or here in this text, it's the spirit, the angels show it certain things, and then it strikes it and extinguishes the light and brings it forth against its will. And I think we kind of had this conversation when we were discussing this this text from Legends of the Jews about how everything is against the will of the, like, it doesn't want to be born into a human body. Then after it lives life on earth, it doesn't want to die. I mean, it's like everything is always against the will of the flesh, but it's in the will of the Most High, which is what the important part of it is.
Right, right. Yeah, this whole, I mean, everything that we're learning, and this lesson will make better sense to us once we have returned to paradise and come back to the seat of the Most High. Um, because this lesson was all necessary for us to understand again why we need a sovereign and just and compassionate creator, one that creates worlds to work in serenity and harmony and in love, uh, rather than chaos and disorder and the things that we are manifesting now because fallen angels and humanity have free will and have been placed into roles where we believe we are in charge, and trying to be the uh, over the caretakers of this realm when we can't even take care of ourselves, much less anything else. But also wanted to make mention again with regard to the Chronicles of Jeremiah and even the Legends of the Jews. We're not in any manner saying that these are inspired writings, but we are saying that they do bring, uh, they help us to discern those things that are found within the Bible, those things that are declared within the scriptures. And so when we share them, we're bringing them forth for your consideration. But think about even deja vu. I mean, these texts tell us that, the soul, for the 9 months that it's in the womb of its mother, it has shown all these things as far as the people that are going to be important in its life, that even, the important moments where it dies, the moment of its death, all of these things. And then yet, when we're here in our lifetime, all of us have experienced those moments or something happens and we're like, oh, I remember this, or
Yeah.
there's something about this occasion that is special. There's that whole deja vu weirdness, that synchronicity that you can't explain otherwise. Uh, but Lisa, go ahead, comment.
Yeah, definitely. There's something that when I was little, I think maybe I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I don't know if you've probably seen the Fisher Price little dolls. They're basically these little dolls. They don't have any arms or legs, but just made of wood, and there's like a small round head, and they have all different types of little, like a barn they can play in, or the school bus, and they these tiny,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
they're about
Yeah.
2 inches tall, and they have like an airplane. I particularly love this castle. That was like, I had set my entire room up to have like a little village of, I called them the little people, or the little Fisher
Uh-huh.
Price people. And I had like maybe 40 or 50 of these little figurines, and then I had it all set up with their house, and I had an airplane, and I had the little castle. My mom would find this stuff at garage sales, and so I was so excited every time that we'd find another piece for this little village. But thinking back on I mean, I vividly remember a lot of the stories that I would tell, and that it's so weird to look back on it now, because I was basically playing out parts of my life that happened later on, if that makes any sense. Like, one of the stories that I would tell, when I grew up, I had like dark brown hair, and I didn't start turning blonde or what this white hair that I have now until I was like in my 20s. I started my hair started changing colors, and as I got older. But the figure that I would play for myself was this blonde little figure of Fisher Price girl, and she had this. I would have this girl, and she would like this other boy, and it was so strange because this boy that she was attracted to had this mean looking face and just was not nice to her at all, and would do these horrible mean things to her. And I named him Bert, and it's so weird because that's the name of my ex-husband. And then
Oh, wow. That's so
yeah,
crazy.
I know. And then together, this girl, I had them become older, and I didn't know anything about foster care, anything about the system, but they had a foster home where they had foster children, and
Oh,
this
wow.
looking Bert person was so mean to the foster children. And I would think about all of this stuff when if any of you read my book, 29 Doctors, you can read all about what happened with me and my ex-husband named Bert. And it was so similar to what I was playing out with these little figurines when I was like 9 and 10 years old. And then finally, the little blonde girl got away from this mean person and was with this, then as an older adult, I guess I had her be. It's some of it's kind of blurry, but she did end up with a really wonderful guy that would help her take care of the foster children. And now thinking about it, it's kind of hilarious in a way, but at the same time, it's like, wow, the Most High was revealing to me my entire life, like through these characters. Have you ever, I mean, you talk about deja vu, but it was kind of an ongoing thing for years. I was playing out all of these little scenarios with these little people.
Wow, that's a trip.
I
Um,
know.
but it kind of reminds me of the story that we read about how the Most High revealed to Adam all of the generations of the children that would be born to him, and he revealed this to Enoch, and we received that story as that whole animal farm parable, where it talks about even the coming of the Messiah. And we have the two different bloodlines. You have the red bull, the black bull, and then the white bull, because the red bull was sacrificed. That was Abel, killed by his brother, his half brother Cain. But anyways, yeah, just I think understanding pre-existence, predestination, and election, which is a whole nother part of the spiritual, the larger aspects of who we are that most people don't know about, that these kind of things help us to better understand the scriptures. Especially, again, a lot of the extra biblical accounts that reveal these kinds of truth, but that have been largely removed. And I think that there's reason for such separation, that um, that they don't want us to really know who we are and where we're from, and that we are our home is in paradise. That we have fallen from paradise, that we've been placed into this fallen state of being where we're caught up in this fallen world. But as long as we don't remember who we are or where we're from, the Satan can lie to us about that we're evolved to monkeys, that we are nothing but a moment of random chaos, that we live on the earth that spins around the sun, and just because we happen to be in the Goldilocks zone, that this is the reason life came about from just random circumstance. All these kinds of lies can be perpetuated as long as people are not familiar with the larger reasons of who they are, why they are, and what all of this is really all about. And so that's why I think it's important for us to examine some of these things, because when you understand, when you know, when you realize who you are, uh, you can't be lied to about other things. And, discernment is a great blessing, because the Most High said, my people are killed for lack of knowledge.
Oh, definitely, Zen. I totally agree. And also too, like the Most High shows us through all these writings, through the Bible, of how even, like you said, the patriarchs and prophets, Enoch was given all these visions. They were given so many different visions of what would happen, like the 12 patriarchs with all their children, and within all their testaments, they know that they're going to be falling away. I mean, he's revealed so
Right.
much to all of these people in the past, all these examples. And even in your book, The Vestures of Light, Rod of Wonder, on that rod was even listed the patriarchs, right? And all the,
Right.
and their
Yes.
wives, and
And
I
the
believe
matriarch,
even
yes.
the apostles as well. Is that I'm trying to remember, on that rod there was so much information written, all the plagues, right? The plague
Right.
of
Yes.
Egypt. There was so much on there that it was kind of like a guideline for whoever inherited it next, to be able to almost kind of see what was going to be happening in the future, to kind of give a little bit of an idea of what to expect. Like anyone
Right.
who had that rod, like Moshe, he already knew what the plagues were going to be, right?
Exactly. Yes.
It's amazing that when we have these extra books, and
Hold on. We're at break. We'll be right back, everyone, for final segment.
As a bookstore for truth seekers, it's our goal to make ancient manuscripts which were once held captive by secretive institutions available for public consideration. In our generation, where wisdom has increased, as Daniel the prophet foretold, we have access to many of the testimonies our early church brethren were persecuted for preserving. After being hidden for centuries, these manuscripts have been leaked from various sources throughout the earth, and it's our goal to gather these sources into printable form to make available for all who seek the ancient way. If you're looking to deepen your studies of the biblical narrative, find these ancient manuscripts and more at sacredwordpublishing.com. Your partnership with Sacred Word Publishing goes further than the publishing of ancient manuscripts and weekly video content.
You also make a huge impact across the earth in orphanages in Myanmar, India, Uganda, and Kenya.
Your support is crucial for the development of the ecclesia of real truth seekers.
We thank you for joining us in hosting Secrets Revealed, Momentary Zen, the Digital Readers Club, Ask Me Anything series, and other shows that have helped lead so many to the truth of salvation.
To become even more involved, please visit patreon.com/sacredwordpublishing, where you can partake in exclusive, interactive, patron-only content and help us continue shining the light of love in this darkened world.
To the land. The sons of the angels of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took them wives, and their sons became among great men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
Freaked by the sun, moon, and stars in a mansion. There's got to be planets like ours. Some conceive of a face on the surface of Mars. So in need of a meaning and purpose we long. Indeed, they believe that they sight beyond God, so that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve. And eventually reach what they seek and then solve the problems of man, but they really don't know that the works of our hands are like just filthy rags. We travel the lands and think about it's just our lapses, and within are much of the facts of imagine that God's committing activists.
All right. Thanks, everybody, again for joining us this night. We've been talking about the creation of soul and also about preexistence and the greater reasons and the purpose of our being here in this world. And, you know, there's not a lot of people that even figure that out. And I think that's also an important, very important aspect to understand and consider when you're trying to work out your salvation in fear and trembling, as the scriptures inform us and instruct us to do. So, glad to be able to share this topic with all of you. But, you know, and again, this is another one of those reasons why we do delve into and examine the extra biblical manuscripts to make sense of and to give better insight into, you know, again, those reasons for our being here in this world and even at this time. Lisa?
Yeah, you know, when I was growing up, when I would read this verse or with my parents or with my mom, especially in Jeremiah, about before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. And it seems like a lot of children that I've worked with too have very similar questions as I did, where, okay, so if he knew us before we were born, where were we? And my mom, of course, would say, oh, you're living in heaven. Well, what were we doing in heaven? You know, like, were we infants? Were we children? Were adults? Were we just spirits hanging out in a little compartment? I mean, what were we doing? And of course, there's no answer in the 66, as far as I know, anyway. But it's like there should be answers for these questions that of where did we come from? And I see in the chat, like, it's such an insult for people to say, oh, we came from monkeys, when it was actually angels, you know, like, what a huge difference.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, you know, they are also, now that they have pushed the whole theme of evolution, the new idea is that the ancient aliens created us and seeded us and placed us here on this earth a long time ago. So, you know, the whole theme of intelligent design and the Most High establishing the world and us and also our ancestors as far as Adam and Eve, and um, that you know, again, is just for them, that's the fairy tale they want to get us all to buy into and to bow down to the coming of the, as far as the return of these fallen angels. um, so that's where we have to be concerned and vigilant with regard to truth, because we have to understand that this is part of the strong delusion that is coming forth, and of which the Illuminati, they are going to try to push it. And it's already being pushed. I mean, you see the Ancient Aliens show that's #1 in the whole world, the most viewed, most watched series. And that is without a doubt the theme of, you know, the entirety of, it's basically a religion, you know, it is a faith. And so, yeah,
Yes.
that's what's coming.
Yeah, like that scientism, I think that might be one of the names they call it, where and that
Right.
includes, of course, the entire NASA hoax, right? But all
Yeah.
of these other things are hidden history. There's so many different things that have been held from us just to prevent us from drawing near to our Creator, to the Most High, from knowing who we truly are. And the ancient aliens, that thing, I mean, it used to be kind of taboo to say, oh yeah, I believe in aliens, or but now it's like it's such a normal thing. I didn't know that was like the #1 show. That's amazing. People are really, really buying into that just because they have no solid foundation that a lot of people were brought up with. They weren't grounded in scripture. They weren't brought up to even have these questions answered as to where they came from.
Yeah, that is the problem. Excuse me, in today, as far as this world, and with those that are lost that don't have really good guidance, is they have no idea where to go to find the truth. And even myself, a long time ago, I read a lot of the Zachariah Sitchin works, and I had bought into and believed a lot of that. And it wasn't until I came to understand that biblical cosmology, as it's been encoded into the Book of Enoch, it shows me that we are not living in a solar system. And the Sumerian mythology, they are trying to push that whole ideology that we live, uh, you know, in a solar system where the Earth is spinning around the sun. And without a doubt, I know that curvature is non existent, that we are not moving, that the Earth is not moving at 1,037 miles an hour, which is faster than a bullet shot from a pistol, or the speed of sound. I mean, it's insanity, the things they get us to believe and to buy into. And for, looking back now that I know the truth with regard to the Book of Enoch and how this cosmology has been hidden and it's found everywhere now. Like when we read the Legends of the Jews and the Chronicles of Jeremiah, without a doubt, it describes the heavens and the earth being created as a unit, as it says in Isaiah 40, 22, that the Most High sits upon the circle of the earth, and that the heavens were spread out as a curtain above it, and that together they form the shape of a tent or a tabernacle. I mean, that in and of itself shows that we are living like in what Rob Skiba used to call a snow globe. I mean, that's basically the design of the creation, and yet they have us buying into this ever expanding, never, retreating, continually elongating world where all the stars are suns and all of them have planets and possibility of life and people. I mean, it's all insanity. And when you really know the truth, I know that my God is right there above Polaris in the sides of the north, above the mount of the congregation, that he's established the heavenly tabernacle, paradise, the throne of the Most High is right there, and that he's watching from that strategic vantage point all the workings, all the happenings, and all the occurrences here on the earth, and that there's no other show going on. We are all that is, and this is all he has to deal with, and so to me that just makes so much more sense than all the things that they have lied to and have tried to get us to buy into.
Oh, definitely. And so much changed in my life and in my spiritual walk once I was able to embrace our true cosmology back in like 2015 or so.
Yes.
And speaking of that too, I put some posts up on our Sacred Word Publishing LLC Instagram page. I found a really cool meme if anybody wants to go there. It's Sacred Word Publishing LLC. If you have Instagram, go there. You can see what I'm talking about. I found this from a Facebook friend. They put it together. And of course, you can read about amazing descriptions of all the 7 levels of heaven, actually 9 if you include the top 2 where the throne room is. But this particular diagram shows the levels of heaven. It shows, above the firmament that covers the earth. And it gives scriptures, including extra biblicals, to back up each level. So like you can find them all in the Ascension of Isaiah, like I said. But like in the first heaven, they have listed on there Genesis 1, verse 6 to 8, Jubilees, like what you read earlier, Zen, chapter 2, verse 4, the Testament of Levi, chapter 2, verse 7, second Esdras, chapter 6, verse 41. So that's just the first heaven. And then the second heaven, you can find descriptions of that in the Testament of Levi as well, in chapters 2 and 3. The third heaven is mentioned in 2 Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 2 to 4. The fourth heaven's mentioned in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 10. The fifth heaven is mentioned in Apocalypse of Abraham, one of my favorite texts, chapter 19, verse 27. The sixth heaven is found mentioned also in Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 19, and the Testament of Levi, chapter 3. And then the seventh heaven is mentioned in 1 Kings, chapter 8, verse 27, 2 Chronicles, chapter 6, verse 18, the Apocalypse of Abraham again in chapter 19, and the Testament of Levi in chapter 3, verse 4 to 5. And I just thought it's such a cool depiction. If you get a chance, go check over there, Zen. And it shows each level, and it shows, like, of course, it shows the earth is at the bottom with the abyss and the water that was here from the flood, and then the first firmament, the second, all the different layers of heaven, and with the sun and the moon, of course, within the firmament, not like 92 million miles away or whatever scientism tries to say that it is. And that the sun and the moon are the same size. The sun and the moon, they both rotate around the over the earth, not like all over the place like it's shown in that NASA depicts it. And it's so simple, like compared to all of the math and all of the ridiculous numbers and everything that you have to learn in order to learn the solar system. Like the biblical cosmology system is so simple compared to that. Like it makes so much more sense. That's why too that I decided to do a coloring book for children, so they could have this type of image in their mind when they're picturing where our home is. Because like with these texts we're reading today, not only did they try to hide who we are, but they tried to hide where our home is, where we live. Like how much more deceitful can you get, right, son?
Right. Absolutely. And, when it comes to truth and understanding where you are, I mean, how that is not the most important topic for people is just beyond me. They're always like, oh, well, what does flat earth matter? What does biblical cosmology matter? What does understanding the book of Enoch matter? I mean, does truth matter to you? Because I like to know and understand truth, and that's why I read and study the scriptures and the Bible and prophecy. And like I wrote the firmament and the flat earth as key to decrypt the book of Enoch. And in those 2 books, I review a lot of what are the extra biblical books that are about the creation and the cosmology. And we see again, I mean, even in the Genesis narrative, when you go back and you review the first 7 days, the first week of creation, we see again, and Elohim made the heavens and the earth. The firmament comes into play on the second day to divide the waters above from the waters below. On the third day, you have, the circle of the earth inscribed upon the waters of the deep. The dry land is elevated above sea level. And then on the fourth day, you have the sun, the moon, the stars, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter, all created and placed into the firmament, and on the 7 heavens, which divide the space between and below the firmament. Um, and, again, when you look at and examine and study that, there's no way that we could be orbiting around the sun when the sun has been fitted and placed in orbit above the earth and below the firmament, which is fitted to the circle of the earth. I mean, it's absolutely insane what they get us to believe and to buy into. And the earth, again, is not moving. And we can see that. I mean, it's clear. And the other thing is that uh, NASA and the scientists and the astrophysicists, they all tell us that we are spinning towards the east and we are circling counterclockwise in motion above, that the earth is moving with all the other planets counterclockwise around the sun. When what we see and what we experience every day is that the sun arrives in our uh, eastern skies, will come up as sunrise, move across the southern skies or southern latitude till it reaches the west, and then it reaches the west for sunset, and when it reaches the vanishing point, it disappears, and then it moves in semicircle towards the north and back to the east where it rises in the morning. And we see this every day over and over and over. And so the luminaries are actually moving in a clockwise fashion above the face of the earth. And so they have us believing the opposite, and that the stars and the sun and the moon and that everything is moving, you know, around in counterclockwise fashion, and it's completely opposite and contrary to what we witness and what we see, and it just blows my mind that we buy into, believe, or that most people do. And we're still a small minority. Most people still believe in the science, believe in NASA. I mean, the people that still think we went to the moon and accept that as truth, it's mind blowing.
Oh, yeah, it's so sad. And to try to talk to people that just it's really frustrating to me when I try to talk to people, those that seem to be grounded in scripture, and to be able to show them just using the Bible as evidence of our true cosmology. And it's like there's just this wall that comes up, and I know it's going to take a lot of prayer for certain people that have been totally grounded in the whole NASA deception to awaken to the truth, and some might not ever. I mean, it's really sad to think of that it's such an important truth to awaken to, and it brought me much closer to the Most High. It made me so excited to study scripture again when it had been kind of a lull in my life where I felt like there had to be more. Like I kept thinking in my spirit, kept saying there has to be more. I mean, everything we need to know about salvation is, of course, contained within the Bible. But as far as our creation, the creation of the world, I kept thinking in the back of my head, there's got to be more to this. Because one of the things I never understood either is how can the sun, being as bright as it is and as far away as it is, only shine on the earth and not light up other areas in the universe?
Yeah, right.
And it's, you know what I mean? Like, why?
Yeah,
how
it's
can
supposed to be so huge.
Yeah, we just so focused on the earth. And then one of the ways that Noble realized too, that because he took a little while to awaken to our true cosmology. I think that I was kind of dropping hints pretty hard for about 9 months before he finally decided to do his own research. But one of the ways that he realized was when he's out surfing, he looks up and you can see that crepuscular rays coming down from the sun, like through the clouds. And he said he always wondered how anyone could think that the sun was like millions of miles away when it's like so obvious right there.
Right. Yeah, and there's no way for, us to see the rays of the sun at all angles if it were to be as large as they say it is and the earth be as small as they say it is. Because then, all the rays would just overwhelm the earth, and they would all be straight and linear. But we see them fan out, which shows that the sun is local. And how do you get clouds behind the sun, and if it's 93 million miles away? Which, if it were that far, we wouldn't even see it. I mean, it's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, especially being a very visual person, I like to see visual evidence, and using their
Right.
own scientific method, they cannot prove that we live in an ever expanding universe, because there's no small model that makes any sense with all of their numbers. You cannot you can use the globe model, but you cannot make it work with the rest of what they say the universe is,
Right.
using their own method, right?
Right. I mean, even the dynamics of water affirm that, we are living on a plane. Water cannot adhere to a ball. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And then the other thing, and the easiest thing for me, was just going to look for the curvature. And when
Mm.
you realize that curvature is non-existent, I mean, that makes you throw everything they say out the window.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And we've talked about this before too, living here in Hawaii and how we can see other islands on clear days,
Right.
which
Right.
kind of get fewer, that are 100 miles away. We can see
Right.
Kauai sitting on the beach here on Oahu, and you can see Kauai. That there's got to be things that would go through people's minds. I mean, I've even heard people say, "Oh, we're not supposed to be able to see that," and then I'll be, "Okay, well, what does that tell you?"
Exactly. We do see it every
Yeah,
day. So what does that tell you? Yeah.
believe your eyes. Believe your eyes.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, there is a ton of evidence though, and it makes me so sad that more people haven't awakened to this truth. But at the same time, I'm encouraged, because a lot of the people that I tried to tell this to maybe 9 years ago or so, in 2015 and 2016, when I was going real hard on Facebook, making a ton of posts about flat Earth, and a lot of people
Uh-huh.
unfollowed me. But some of those people have come back and said, "Hey, we actually did our own research, and I apologize for being so rude to you on your page." Because,
Uh-huh. Oh, goodness.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've had that happen too, where it's kind of a nice feeling. Once in a while, there'll be like one person that says, "Hey, guess what? I've awakened to our true cosmology as well, and thank you for your information that you kept putting out there."
Yeah. Yeah, there is some of that, but the majority is you're crazy. You're an absolute moron. You're an idiot, or whatever. They're not even willing to look at it, but it's okay, because I'm always going to stand for truth no matter what. And I'm always going to teach and share it. And if people want to hear it and they're willing to listen, then they can go to my work and listen to the things that I say. But if they're not, then there's a lot of other people that are espousing solar system and scientism and NASA and all that. There's a whole bunch of NASA fan people.
Oh, definitely. And the other space agencies that are kind of popping up in different countries, like the China. I don't know if you saw the China. They tried to send up their rocket, and it looked like it was like made of Legos or something several years ago. And other countries that have said that they're launching into space as well. But one of the things that I realized, because it is the persecution is pretty heavy when you come out and you say the things that you've researched or that I've researched as well, and to just have people that you thought were your friends resort to name calling. They have this cognitive dissonance thing where they just become extremely rude to you when they were so nice before. And so I went back to this verse in Matthew chapter 5 verse 11 a couple days ago, and I thought I'd share it with you. Just a reminder, as part of when Yeshua is giving his Sermon on the Mount, where he says, "Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And so I feel like that can give people hope, and to encourage people to continue sharing truth. And if you are persecuted for righteousness' sake, just know that you are blessed, because that's what you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, they killed the Messiah, they killed all the apostles. And I know without a doubt, if lynching were legal, that they'd have me hanging from a rope right now. Because they're that evil. They hate us with, and it's so crazy. You know, all we're doing is sharing truth, and yet they hate us for that purpose. Like now, you know, well, I'll just say this real quickly, but we're having so many videos deleted. I know the writing's on the wall. I'm gonna have to just download everything I can while I can, because I don't know. Things are just, tentative to say the least. But anyways, Lisa, I want to thank you. And sorry, Clark, you couldn't come on. You've been part of the stream since the beginning, but
Yeah,
I guess we were never able to hear you. But thank you, sister.
Yeah, we miss you, Clark. Maybe next time we can get you to come and join with us and share your wisdom as well. And until then, please, everyone, join us on Saturday for Digital Readers Club if you want more of these conversations. And if you'd like to come read with us, Tammy's put up the link there in the chat of how to come on Discord and can read live with us. We're continuing to read our Legends of the Jews this Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you so much, Zen, for inviting me to come and have this discussion with you. I always learn so much from you when we have these discussions, and I really appreciate you, brother.
This
is
as well,
iHeartRadio.
sister. Bless.